Testing. 1, 2, 3. It's your boy, Zen, aka Pastor Zen, aka Sunny, aka Sunny B, aka Toso, Toso, or Tasso, any variation of. Today I'm gonna be doing an interview with my guy. Actually, I just doxed his name. I'm gonna be doing an interview with my guy. We're gonna call him Goose. Somebody I met on the interwebs, specifically on Twitter X, formerly known as Twitter. And he's somebody who's very, very enlightened, very, very in touch with things going on geopolitically, in terms of what's going on in the Middle East, what's going on in America. And so today I just wanted to get some of his thoughts in regard with the American empire, the timeline that it is on, and kind of where we're headed. So he should be joining us in a little bit here. Until then, I'm gonna be eating some jollof rice. I got this from church today, so we up. And yeah, when he hops on, we'll go ahead and just chat. Shouldn't be too long, maybe like 30 minutes to 45 minutes. Yeah, looks like this. But I should talk and eat. But we cool, right? Cool. So yeah, some of the questions I wanted to ask him kind of relate to this whole Israel-Palestine conflict. Some of the players that are in it, it's becoming more of a global thing now. South Africa just brought a case against them. I think Lithuania is joining in on that too, as the first European country to kind of denounce what Israel's doing. One love, baby. The goal is to love. And in order to love, you got to understand in it. Otherwise, what you got is some sorry excuse for love. Really, it's just some sort of I don't know, fake shit parading as affection. Is that him? No. So yeah, the date is the 21st of January, 2024. Apparently, we just entered into the age of Aquarius, whatever that means. So, what better time than now to begin to reveal what's really going on? By the way, I'm eating kind of crazy because I'm on this 21-day fast, but it's like 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. So right now it's 6:59, and I just finished cooking. So I'm hungry. Otherwise, I would have better table manners. Actually, would I? Probably not. Still nothing. Oh, no, never mind. Let me get my phone so I can pull up some of these questions. So we're going to talk about his perspectives on Israel versus Palestine. What is the Talmud? Some of the ideas that percolate from there. Zionism versus Jewishness. And then a little bit about Ye. I can't go through an interview without talking about the GOAT. So yeah. He's a Ye fan politically too, not just his art. He is an artful dude. He's an artist in that he creates music. Yeah, so I kind of did the intro already, but when he pops on, of course, I'll do another brief introduction, and we'll just hop right into it. But we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 questions. I like 7, so I'm gonna think of one more. What is Talmud? Zion versus Jews, Zionists versus Jews, Israel versus Palestine, timeline of the American Empire. How about best political philosophy? Be kind of a general one. So we got like your liberals and conservatives, the generic folks, and then you got your, your libertarians, your anarchists, your collectivist folks like the socialists and the communists and yada yada yada. So we'll kind of go through that too. Best political strategy. And then he might talk a little bit about one of his other preferred political candidates. Obviously, they doing a full frontal with Ye right now, so he's probably not going to be on the ballot, unfortunately. But that don't mean that we lose, because the ideas are already out there. Plus, it looks like Trump is doing his thing. Unfortunately, I kind of wish we were past this by now, like as a species, as a collective. But it seems like we just keep going back to the well. Can't grow up yet. I don't know. Spinach and black beans is not a bad combo. I mean, it's not the best either, but it's not bad. Plus, I'm broke, so actually, let me not say that. I am abundant. I am wealthy. I am rich. Manifesting it. He said he'd be on. Damn it. Spilled some rice, and I just vacuumed the floor. He said he'd be on in 2 minutes, about 3 minutes ago. Any second now. Let me get a big bite of this chicken leg, drumstick before we pop some. Can't really eat that when he's on, man. Thank God for food, bro. Thank God for food. Now that I kind of got this one-on-one thing going, I feel like I might do some more solo videos. I just started up a Rumble profile because YouTube is the feds. But at the same time, I was thinking like, okay, I'm gonna do interviews. But now that I'm just talking to you, I kind of like this vibe a little bit better because I don't have to. It's windy outside today. I don't have to wait on anybody. I don't got to really plan too much. I just kind of riff, and hopefully a few of y'all vibe with it. I need a few. I don't need too much. I don't ask for too much. I just want the world iron hard to please. That's a Travis Scott bar. That is, I kind of agree with it. Yes. Sorry, that was bad. Zen and Monk, the album, is coming out in 5 days. Really, like 4.5. This Friday, the 26th. So set your calendars. Album of the year on the way. My boy, Spontaneous Monk, and me, your boy, Pastor Zen. I'm cooking some stuff up. So hopefully you vibe with that too. I actually don't know how we're gonna do this in terms of visual. I might just have his voice on, like dub it over with some like robotic shit. I don't know how private he's really trying to be. I mean, he is on Twitter, but he doesn't have his face on there or anything like that. I'm like one of those weird dudes who's just like, it is what it is, If they want to find me, they'll find me. But he's still trying to make a living. So I don't knock that for sure. Money is important, kind of. Not really, but I mean, as long as people think it is, it is. And by the way, in it is now officially a part of my vernacular. In it, you know what I mean, bro. Trying to incorporate some of this UK slang so I can be accepted by these people. I say these people like that's not my country. Like I'm a UK citizen, but obviously I lived in America for most of my life, so I feel more affinity to. Oh, here he goes. Yeah, buddy. All right. It says joining. And there he goes. Mother Goose is in the building. What's good, brethren? Can you hear me? Oh, shoot. Nice hat.
Yes, sir. Yeah, dude. I got this when as soon as he announced the run, dude. I dropped $80 on this hat.
I was doing I was doing like a mini introduction before you hopped on. By the way, we're already recording, so
Okay.
I hope that's cool.
That's all good. Let's just roll with it.
All right, yeah. Pretty much. Let me just kind of run it back. So this is
Yeah,
my boy.
please.
Don't go with Goose.
Yes,
He's
sir.
yeah, he's a smart man, very intelligent. Some may say too smart for his own good. He's somebody who kind of understands the ways of the world. There's this whole shit going on with Israel, Palestine, the geopolitics of it all, the understanding this timeline of the American empire and what that looks like now. And yeah, as you can see on this hoodie, ANC, that's the one of the dudes that we actually were able
Anti-neocons.
to see neocons. We were able to host
Yes, sir.
Ryan on one of our spaces a few weeks ago, and that went really well. So this is just kind of who he is. I think today we're just going to talk a little bit kind of generally, but at the same time, maybe get into some of his thoughts about the whole Zionist versus Jews dichotomy, maybe some of his.
Oh, yeah. I'm
Oh
glad
yeah,
you say that, Sonny. I got some thoughts, my friend. I've really been
hey,
going down the rabbit hole lately. So let's yeah, just go for it, man. It's always good to be talking to you.
that. All right, let's just hop in then. So, what are your thoughts on this whole? So, one of my things is that when you say like, "Oh, anti," like I'm not a Zionist, or like, "Oh, this person is a Zionist,"
Mhm.
sometimes people are trying to conflate that with,
With
oh,
Judaism.
yeah, with Judaism. And so I think
Hmm.
that it's important to maybe start off by making a bit of a distinction because,
Right.
the anti-Semitism thing is what they're rolling with nowadays. So kind of what is
Yes.
your perspective on that? Maybe a little bit of your thoughts on like even the Talmud or some stuff with that
Uh-huh. For
and
sure.
some of those thoughts.
So, like any other ethnic group, Jews are not a monolith that is consistent through any, even, even if you break down the individual sects of Christianity, even Catholics are not a monolith, white people are not a monolith, Africans are not a monolith, Europeans, etc. So, you have to understand that there is a competing, there's an ongoing argument within the Jewish community, though most of them are Zionists, they support Israel. And Zionism is a political ideology. So, it's this whole idea that the Jewish people have the right of return to their original lands, which they claim to be is Jerusalem. It has a lot to do with Zion or Jerusalem. I actually watched a whole video on this yesterday from Robert Seffer, who's an interesting anthropologist. But essentially, there is a delineation between Jews and Zionists because a lot of the Orthodox Jews, like the Neturei Karta, oppose Zionism on religious grounds. Because if you are a true practicing religious Jew, you know that the Jews are not supposed to have a nation until the Messiah comes back. So the true religious Jewish people do not support Zionism. And I think in as so far as talking about the distinction between Judaism and Zionism, while there is a minority of Jews who oppose Zionism outwardly, it is the vast majority of the Jewish community that does support Israel, and whether that's through brainwashing in the media or the World War II narrative or religiously, like, I don't really know. I have no way to tell what that is, but
Like the default programming for most of them.
yeah, it's a default programming. Exactly. I think that's a really good way to put it. And there's a lot of very courageous people who are, and that's the whole thing is like, there's even a debate on like, I see a lot of conservative media, like Matt Walsh made that "What is a Woman" documentary. And it's like, well, what is a Jew then? And this is a serious question. Like, I'm not just trying to be an asshole here. Like,
Yeah.
I really mean that. Like, is because there are some, the Orthodox, the religious ones will say, well, if you practice the Torah, you're a Jew then. If you are ethnically Ashkenazi and you don't practice the Torah, there's a lot of Jews who would say, oh, you're not a Jew at all because you don't practice the religion.
Mhm.
But there's a lot of people who just claim to be Jewish. And this is an interesting thing because they do this with white people a lot. Like, you'll see a lot of these like white Jewish celebrities be like, yeah, I hate white people. But it's like, oh, when it's convenient for them, they're going to identify as Jewish. So it's like, okay, but you don't practice the Torah. Sarah Silverman is not reading her Torah right now, but she identifies as a Jew because it earns her oppression points.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting thing because if we can't even really properly define what a Jew is, how are we supposed to distinguish between a Jew and a Zionist? How are we supposed to distinguish? Well, it's a very unclear definition, and it comes back to this problem of identity. Like, what is your identity? We talk about identity politics a lot, especially on the right, but it's like, this is the ultimate identity politics card. And
Yeah.
as you can see with this whole Harvard president being kicked out, it's like the conservatives complain a lot about black people, right?
Mhm.
But what they don't understand is like the side they advocates for complete and total identity politics. Like you need a DNA test to get into Israel. They'll complain about like, oh yeah, these people think that they're entitled to all these reparations. Like Ben Shapiro will bitch about reparations, like, oh yeah, like all you white people, they think you're so entitled, they want reparations. I'm like, okay, Ben, well, what is Israel? Is that not just one giant fucking reparation? So if one group can have it, why can't the other? You know, it's
Yeah.
either it is or it isn't. Anyways, I'm sorry, I got a little off track, but go ahead.
Oh, this is great stuff. I think it's important to make that distinction right off the bat because
Yeah.
sometimes people don't realize that there is a political side to it. It's not just purely a religious thing that people are just
Mm-hmm.
holy and they need this space to practice
Yes.
righteousness. But
Most Israelis are secular. A Torah abidant Jewish state would not have gay bars. Pretty obvious.
exactly. And I think that's kind of a good place to kind of hop off onto the next point because now we're thinking about what's going on in the world. And this whole
Right.
with Palestine and what happened on October 7th really
Mm-hmm.
popped off into the zeitgeist or the mass consciousness, this
Yep.
whole conflict that has become kind of front and center. And so I wanted to maybe get some of your take on maybe first what the role of Hamas is, how they kind of
Mm-hmm.
play into almost underneath the authority of this Israeli banner of potentially being a not controlled opposition, but there is a sense of,
Yeah, I hear
you
what you're saying.
know what I'm saying? So kind of maybe
Yeah.
expound on that a bit.
So this is a very common theme for the Zionist power grid at large, the American empire, is that the monsters that they create come back and eat them. Like for example, you know, the hardcore Zionist wing in Israel, the Likud party, and Benjamin Netanyahu is recently he's kind of a centrist as far as Israel goes. Like he's kind of like center right, but he's recently aligned with like the ultra orthodox Israeli right wing. Um,
In order to keep
to
power.
and they've propped up Hamas. Like there's plenty of evidence. Like I don't have exact examples right in front of me right now, but I can tell you for a fact that Netanyahu, basically said like we are going to prop up Hamas because Hamas is like basically a militant Muslim group who is a one state solution, total eradication of Israel, and that actually bodes very well for Israel's strategy because Menachem Begin, a former Israeli prime minister, once said that Israel's strategy is a strategy of provocation and revenge. So they want to have a super fundamentalist Islamic group in power so that they can justify
Right.
flattening Gaza. But, and this is a huge but, yes, they did foster Hamas. They gave Hamas money. But the thing is, even within Hamas, they've kind of inwardly decided, like, okay, well, fuck these people. We're going to just turn on them. We're going to train militarily and, build ourselves up to the point where we become an actual threat. And I think, October 7th was people like, there's so much cope in the conservative circles, especially. They're like, oh, it was an inside job. They let it happen. No, they fucking didn't. They
So
overestimated their AI technology. And Scott Ritter talks about this. He talked about it on ANC Report once, where the Israelis were reliant on an AI system to detect abnormal activity in Gaza. And essentially what happened was because they were so reliant on this AI, the Hamas fighters were training out in the open so that their training didn't appear as abnormal activity because like, oh, well, they fly in around on paragliders every day. So that's not abnormal. And then one day they're like, oh, on an Israeli holiday, no less, on a Jewish holiday, that's when they decided to attack because they always think it's going to be on Friday because that's when the Islamic prayers are. And that's usually when they, get into their shenanigans. But they waited until Shabbat, until Saturday, and they caught these people with their pants down. A lot of them were hungover, they were partying the night before, and they got fucking smacked. And this whole revenge on Gaza is they're overplaying their hand. They're just, they're slaughtering tens of thousands of children. It's disgusting. Everyone sees it. And yeah, I
yeah.
think that they want people like Hamas in power, but they overplayed their hand this time. Hamas is coming back to eat them, just like Al Qaeda came back to bite the United States.
Mm.
Right in 2000, when the Taliban, we leave them the weapons. Now they're in control of Afghanistan. But this is a common theme: the monsters they create come back to eat them, and that's exactly what Hamas is, in my opinion.
I feel that. I think the Taliban's a good example because it's like how much money and resources did we spend on that
A
whole
lot.
thing? And it's like the asymmetry of that battle should have clearly favored one side, but the dudes that
Mm-hmm.
were in caves, ended up somehow victorying over the biggest military complex in the world, and that maybe
Yep.
speaks to something here.
And the Taliban is against the drug trade. That is the big one. Oh, they're crazy terrorists. They're against the opium trade.
Yeah, yeah.
And that is a large part of the reason for our invasion of Afghanistan, because of the Golden Crescent out there. It's very lucrative when it comes to poppy field farming and stuff like that. So, and the CIA is probably the #1 drug trafficker in the world. So the Taliban oppose that. Not that not that I'm like, go Taliban, but
Oh,
it's
but it's
like,
about
that's
facts, right? Like we
obviously what
want to get it
happened.
all out there, and I think it's so
Yeah,
important to even think like it's so interesting because you would think that the side that is claiming to have this holy land would be the side that was more religiously rigid and actually kept
right.
by what they
It's just a
want.
cover.
It's all a cover, and the side that
Yep.
they demonize is actually the ones that are like no alcohol. We don't want our women doing this, or we actually
Sharia.
oppose exactly. And so you have
Yeah.
this kind of weird juxtaposition of folks who are actually striving to live by their holy text versus people who are just kind of using it as a cover. And like one of the things
Right.
that you actually exposed to me was how crazy some of the things in the Talmud were, and
Oh
like
yeah.
they effectively are using that to justify some things like maybe you could go into this a little bit more, but there was like a line in there or something about how you can effectively be two sexes at once or something like
There's
that.
8 genders. Yeah. That's in the Talmud.
Like
Well,
crazy stuff like that.
here's the thing about the Talmud, though, and this is how a lot of Jewish people will defend and somewhat correctly, talk about the Talmud, is that the Talmud is a book of debates, right? They're asking, and Owen Benjamin talks about this, and I think it's a really succinct way to put it, is that
I love it.
the reason why there's so much fundamental conflict between Judaism and Islam is because Jewish faith and the Talmud especially dictates that the truth is fluid. It's kind of whatever you can convince people of, especially people outside of your tribe, right? Because you are allowed to lie to the goyim in the Talmud. Like that's in there. And again, Jews will fairly defend and say, okay, these were debates, but like, I mean, they're debating whether or not you can have sex with like a 9-year-old or a 3-year-old or whatever the age is, and that's a little, that's just a little off base for someone who grew up, adhering to vaguely Christian values. Like you shouldn't even be talking about that, man. Like
Yeah.
that's really depraved. But it's a fundamentally different worldview. Like this whole idea of Judeo-Christian values, it's ridiculous. I mean, I'm not even a big religious person, but you would think that the one religion, Christianity, believes that Jesus is the savior of mankind, the savior, the Lord and the light. And then Jewish people think that Jesus is boiling in a pile of human excrement in eternity. He's a common criminal. He's an idol. They think he's an idolater, and they basically hate him. So how can you have two religions that are fundamentally
That
opposed?
confuses me so much about why the
Fundamental. Well,
American
I'll tell you exactly why it is because in the 1980s and 90s, the neoconservative Zionists, well, it's not just Jewish people, it's Christian Zionist evangelical Christians too, took over the American government via AIPAC after they killed the Kennedys. And they essentially, what they do is they try to make Israel's problems and the Jewish community's problems America's problems so that they can use, patriotic Americans to fight their wars. And that really is, you hear this Judeo-Christian values gets beaten over your head
yeah.
from childhood because, and even on like the fake anthrax note where they said death to America, Allah is great, death to America, death to Israel. It's fake. They fucking, and here's something that I get into with people all the time is that like, for example, like the war in Iraq, it's not a mistake. It's a lie. They lied. UN Resolution 1444 was broken with the evidence from who? Israeli security forces. They are the ones who said that there was a meeting in Prague. Never happened. No transfer of anthrax. There was anthrax in Fort Detrick, Maryland, and that's a whole different story. But the evidence of anthrax coming from Al Qaeda comes from Israeli security forces. They fucking lied. And they spent $2 trillion of our dollars and killed 6,000 of our American soldiers, and 30,000 more killed themselves after the war. But I'm
Same.
sorry, I feel like I'm straying from the point.
30,000? Like that's so that
Yeah, way more people kill themselves than actually die in combat because all of these American soldiers are realizing that we are the fucking bad guys. And I
yeah.
don't think these men are not cowards. Like I know these people, they don't have PTSD just because of violence. Like I'm sure that high levels of violence will do anything to anyone, do something to anyone's psyche. But especially when you do that kind of violence and you come back and you realize it was all for Nye. Either you either think it's all for oil, that's the liberals, they fucking whatever. It's for Israel, okay? Because the oil is going to Israel and China, not to the United States. You're fighting a war for these psychopathic, racist, genocidal criminals. You realize that you maybe lost a leg, or you lost your friends, or you killed some kid for fucking Israel, for this satanic, fucking regime. I don't want to use the word satanic because I'm whatever. I just for this regime that's openly bombing an open air prison camp. You realize that when you get home, and what do? You get addicted to drugs. You fall into despair. I met a guy at work the other day who told me all this. He was either in Marines or Army Rangers, and he was in Afghanistan for 6 or 7 years. Came back, completely dropped off the grid, completely. And he told me, he's like, yeah, it's all for Israel. It's all for the Israel lobby. And man, it just sucks to see these high quality people getting shit on, and we don't take care of our veterans because whatever. But anyways, sorry, I'm getting off
Well,
topic. Go ahead,
let's
Sonny.
let's let's use that as a transition because you are American. This is kind of
Yes.
where your heart is, and I see the Yay 2020. Obviously, we're kind of moved towards a more a more perfect union, right? And part of
Right. One nation under God.
Amen. And part of that is unshackling ourselves from some of these
Right.
foreign interests that don't align with ours at home, and figuring out
Mm-hmm.
how those align or how those disalign is such a muddy water situation that's why we need some of these conversations where people who are unafraid to
Absolutely.
speak truth are able to just do so. And so I kind of wanted to get your take on the role of the quote unquote American empire in this, and maybe give some predictions as to where it's going, as to is there,
Yeah.
are we kind of at the tail end of this American experiment, or is America going to do a 180 and be like, actually, no, we're not going to do this anymore, or is that where
Right. Well, I highly doubt the 180. Unfortunately, I just think that this whole thing is too far gone. Like I said, like even the quote unquote opposition, like the conservatives in America, they're still fucking like, oh, look at these crazy trannies. Oh my God, fucking Dunk own the left. Yeah, Steven Crowder's gonna wear a dress to own the left. It's like, oh yeah, fucking like China. That's the problem. Like
that's what
even the
Trump is
opposition
feeding that right now
is
too.
Trump. I've always said is Trump is hilarious. Like I think he's funny, but he is the worst candidate on the two most important issues, and that's the vaccine and Israel. He is the worst on both of those. He's worse than Bill Gates on the vaccine, and he's worse than Nikki Haley on Israel. He's the worst at the two most important things. And what I see with the American, I mean, personally, like I have a very unorthodox view of how America came to be what it is. Like I think that the Civil War is the last war that America fought that was for the founding principles of the United States, and the wrong side won. Now that's a whole thing. And what I
It's all
mean by
supposed
that,
to that one.
right? That's gonna. I know that's gonna rattle some cages. And listen, like you can
I
you can
personally, as a black person who lived in America most of his life, I'm
right.
starting to agree with you, bro. Like when you
Yeah.
do the
Well,
research, it's crazy.
forget the Civil War for a second. I mean, like even if you want to talk about like the civil rights movement, I mean, we completely threw out Malcolm X for Martin Luther King. Malcolm X's whole philosophy was to
Self-determined.
create like to get off of welfare, to stop drinking and becoming victims. Like that works for anyone.
Yeah.
And the fact that he was racist against white people for most of his life, like I get that. His family was killed by the Klan. I
Yeah.
totally understand. Like
Yeah.
I'm not like gonna pretend and sit here. I'm not some radical Muslim. But when you look at like what Malcolm X prescribes for black folks in America, and you take that model, you apply it to any ethnic group, you're gonna win. Does not matter what color you are. And that's the thing is like he's much more of a realist than like this whole dream of like this Western liberal. Everyone integrates, everyone, we dilute all the cultures, which I do think is a fundamentally I want to say Zionist because it's not a Zionist ideal. It's like this whole global,
It's just a
because
communist or the
it,
collective.
it it's communist, because like people get triggered by the word communist because like there is a difference between communism and socialism, but there's like this world communist government, like this BlackRock, Vanguard, megacorp controlled,
Yeah.
liberalism TM, the West TM group that is destroying, every civilization that stands up for itself, that says we want sovereignty, whether it's a Muslim country or an African country or a European country, is going to get squashed out by this this blob, the globo homo, the West, the banking cartels. And if you do zoom in on these banking cartels, you're going to start to notice a pattern. You look at Larry Fink and Janet Yellen, and it's like, okay, yes, they all do have something in common. That's
Yeah.
not to disparage everyone who shares that heritage, but we can't have a real conversation about what controls our country until we're willing to come to terms with the idea that there is a Jewish power grid. Like, I'm sorry, like there's a Russian power grid too. There's a fucking Italian power grid. Like, that's the whole thing. Like, I've been watching The Sopranos a lot. It's a great show. I don't know if you've watched it, but my point about The Sopranos is like, okay, Tony Soprano, like the rules they have in the mob are basically like family comes before everything. You stand behind your family, right or wrong. You defend them to the death, right or wrong. You never snitch. And if people start saying, "Oh, these guys are a mafia," you point them out and say, "Oh, you're full of hate. You're discriminating. You're discriminated against because I'm Italian. You're discriminating against me because I got a vowel in my last name." No, we're discriminating against you because you're a fucking mafia, and we know what you're doing. We know that you're running drugs. We know that you're pushing shady business schemes. It's the same shit. It's the same thing with the Jewish power grid. They're a mafia. The only difference between them and the Italians is that they have a country. The Italian mob does not have a country. If the I in Italy stood for, the I in APAC stood for Italy, we'd all be like, well, what the fuck is with this Italians running our government? They're all like, oh, look, Monadici and Ravioli is the president, and everyone in the cabinet is like, is Italian. We'd all notice that very quick. But there's this stigma around Jewish power because of the World War II narrative, which is another one that is going to get me fired from my job if I talk about it like an adult. And the fact that I'm afraid to say anything about World War II in an adult way shows you exactly who is controlling the narrative, and what I'm saying holds weight. Because if it didn't, then no one. If I said the American Samoans run the banks, no one gives a shit. No one cares. If I said Thailand did 9/11, no one's gonna. I'm not gonna lose my Twitter account. I'm not gonna lose my job. I'd be like, Phil, you're crazy. You're insane.
Yeah.
But if you swap that group out for another and watch what happens.
You saw what happened to Ye, brother. We saw it.
I have an interesting theory about Ye. I kind of thought of this last night. Okay. I think that Ye, I worry, I don't know. Granted, I'm who the hell am I to talk about what Ye's personal doings are. I worry that he's in the sunken place, man. I think they MK Ultra'd his ass. Like, I think he said too much.
Talking to me about this yesterday, bro. I think you might be onto something, because some of the shit that he's doing now just doesn't feel like what he was doing.
He's posting pornography, dude. He went on this whole rant about how bad pornography is and how Instagram is, ruining our youth. And he's totally right. Yeah. And he was totally right. And here's the thing, like, we have texts from Harley Pasternak, Bing, unknown ethnicity and religion, saying, I'm going to drug you into the Stone Age if you keep the shit up. If you keep saying what you're saying, you're not going to see your kids. You're going to be medicated. And this is like a known thing. Like, we know that there are handlers like this. We know that this is not some crazy conspiracy theory. Dave Chappelle talked about Martin Lawrence, and Martin Lawrence, being one of the toughest guys he knew, that one time that, like, Martin Lawrence was like running out of a hotel room naked with a gun saying, they're trying to kill me. Like, this is not a weak man. This is a person who ascended to the height of fame, who's extremely talented, articulate, beloved by millions. And yet, why the fuck is he running around with a gun? Like, this is not normal behavior for a tough person. I'd highly suggest anyone watch that Dave Chappelle clip where he's talking about Martin Lawrence, because, maybe it's not Martin Lawrence is crazy. Maybe the environment's a little sick. Maybe Kanye's not crazy.
Clips about him too. Like, he was talking about Martin Lawrence a few times in his spiel, where he was talking.
What, Cat Williams?
Yeah, I think he was.
I gotta watch that.
MJ and some of the stuff. Like, he just dropped a few nuggets. I got to go back and rewatch. But yeah, it's crazy, bro. Because I was looking at his Instagram. I'm like, where are we going, bro? Like, it's and maybe can get us kind of start rounding up in terms of what is the best political strategy moving forward? Because I was of the Ye 24 variety, but it's getting less and less likely. Obviously, I still want those, like, write them in, fuck it. But it's like, what's the realistic way forward for people who want to be sovereign and who want to keep, their heads about them?
Be moral, get married, have kids.
Okay,
That's
I
it.
like this.
There is no saviors. There is no, well, here's the problem. If you really want to talk about political solutions, like this is like a really tough one because like I've been studying politics a greater part of my adult life, and I do think that there is an answer to what is going on, which is like this it's the combined forces of Zionism and communism that are destroying this country. So the Zionists create the wars, right? Like they'll create, oh, we got to go to war with Putin, he's the new Hitler, we got to go to war with Saddam, he's a new Hitler, new Hitler, new Hitler, new Hitler. And so they do that.
Yeah.
Okay, then we start the wars and we fuck up the whole country. And then what happens? These people need to go somewhere. So where do they go? They go to Europe. They go to the United States. And who welcomes them? Oh, look, it's George Soros's NGOs, the communists. Oh, welcome in. Yeah, of course. Come on in. Come on in. Everybody come on in. And it's these, and the thing is, the right wing opposes the communists. They call out, oh yeah, the blue hair, blah blah blah, fucking woke mob. Oh yeah, okay, okay, good start. And the left calls out the Zionists. They're like, oh, we should. These wars are bad. Okay, good. But the problem is that the opposite, like the left that correctly opposes Zionism and their wars, like I applaud that. That's good. But if you don't have borders, you don't have a country. If you don't have an ID to vote, you don't have a country. And the same thing for the right wingers. Yes, the woke mob is crazy. I agree with you. But what created the woke mob? Why are all these immigrants coming here? Because of the wars, because of the Zionist wars that you support that do not benefit American interests. So what you need is a force that opposes both of those things. And unfortunately, that force is fascism. It's a dictatorship. And I hate to say that, but it really is. It's a right-wing dictatorship. It's saying, okay, we believe that, this woke stuff has to go, right? You got
Real
to
quick, what
get
do you think about Javier Milei or Milei, whatever?
he's a Zionist puppet. He's the same
Yeah.
thing. He's a Zionist. He's against communism, which, okay, great. Yeah, I'm against the
It
woke
seems like
left too.
they segment these things and they like kind of put the ideas into different heads and then they just sit back and watch us not talk as these things kind of spiral out of control. So it's like we kind of know about the issue, but we can't do
Yeah.
anything about it. And it's like it's
Well,
fucked up.
Hey, I mean, the first flag he flew after he won was the Israeli flag, not the Argentinian flag.
That was
And
wild.
that tells you everything. Like, it tells you everything you need to know. I thought it was about Argentina. What
Yeah.
the fuck are you doing flying this foreign country's flag 8,000 miles away? Like it's so obvious. And it's just like, okay. And that's the thing is like, oh yeah, it's like, I'm going to fucking destroy the central bank and replace it with what? What about your homeless? What about your veterans? Oh no, we don't have to take care of them. Capitalism, man. Pick yourself up by your bootstraps. And this is what the Austrian painter from Germany talked about. You need to have you need to have some sort of capitalism. You have to have a free market. You have to own private property, but you have to ban things that are bad for the overall health of the nation. You have to ban or extremely limit pornography and human trafficking and things like that. Like you need a government to stop those things. Like you do want some kind of oversight to make sure that the products you're buying and selling are good for the nation, right? That is a must. Because if you don't, then you're gonna have this. You're gonna have why America,
Yeah.
and you need to have safeguards for this. And honestly, man, like I know what I said before was very strong. I was like, oh, you need fascism. It's not really fascism. It's like you need a strong leader like Putin. Like Putin, for example, because he's right wing in the sense that he's like conservative. Like he believes in he's a Christian, right? But he's a left wing in the sense that he also believes in socialism for his people. He offers incentives for mothers to have more kids. That, to an extent, is socialism.
Is it more like a localized socialism and more like a nationalized, like what?
Oh,
Like,
are you about to say the bad word, aren't you, son? Yeah.
you
See,
called it.
this is the problem, though, and
Yeah.
this is what I wanted to talk to you about today. Is like, dude, like people are unwilling to examine that political system, and here's the kicker, right? What is the greatest case study besides, everyone knows about the Germans? What's the only country in the world that's using National Socialism right now? Israel.
Mm.
Israel has National Socialism that is the fucking Hitler's wet dream, just in reverse, because it's for Jews and not for Aryans. But you need to take a blood test in order to get into Israel. That is the most race-based socialism. And they have everyone serves in the military. So it is kind of like a socialist thing. Like you do have to do that, but free school. You can move into a person's house and just take it because they're the wrong ethnic group. That is National Socialism. And here's the problem. It fucking works amazing if you're the correct category. If you're Jewish in Israel, well, I mean, fuck, man. You live around all people like you, share your values. You know, you might have little quabbles here, but you basically agree on everything, that the Palestinians are dogs and we're God's chosen people, blah, blah, blah. It fucking works. They're the happiest people on earth. And I don't believe in the whole race thing. That's my liberal moment for the day. Is like, I think you can just have a nation. Like you can just have a country. And if people adhere to the core tenets and philosophies of the country itself, then I think that's good enough. Like, because I do have that little bit of liberalism left in me where it's like, yeah, people of other
maybe it needs
cultures
more
can get
culture
along.
than yeah. Well, let's start to land here because Zoom wants to kick us out in about 5 minutes. But
I'm getting so fired for this.
yo, I love this. So like this is beautiful. I'm hoping Rumble stays around. But
Oh,
one
it will. Rumble's good.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, I like Rumble.
Who else is somebody like, let's say they did MK Ultra Ye's ass. Like who else is
Yeah.
a political figure that you would at least feel comfortable backing in the next election, or is it just all shit?
Dude, I mean, I like Dr. Shiva a lot. I really like Dr. But he's like, and I love the guy, and I don't want to speak this into existence because he is a genius. He really is a genius. He's a fantastic. He understands all of the stuff that I'm saying. He's a true working man. Like really did come from the bottom. He invented email as a 14-year-old. He figured out how the elections are stolen. Like he's a really awesome patriot. But the problem is A, he's not an American citizen, and he claims that that's or not an American. He's an American citizen, but he wasn't born in the country. And from what I understand, that is a requirement of being president. If I'm not, but he contests that. He contests that. The point is, it's a long shot. Yeah. I will still vote for Shiva just to flip a middle finger to the establishment. But realistically, man, like I don't see a political solution because even if we get a great president, the unelected government matters so much more. The unelected government, like let's say the chairwoman of the Federal Reserve, and let's say the Secretary of State and the Secretary of Defense, and all these positions that are not voted on, they are not elected, they are selected, matter way more. Which is why, if you're gonna have a legit government, like, and I'm not even a big Fuentes fan, man. Like, I have my qualms with Nick Fuentes, but it's like what he's saying, when he talks about like I was originally thinking in 2022, I'm like, holy shit, it's going to be Ye. He's going to be like the dictator. Because here's the thing, the liberals fear Trump because Trump is a dictator. Like, let's not pussyfoot around it. When they compare him to Hitler, they're actually kind of right. And no right winger will ever admit this. They'll be like, well, the left are the real Nazis. I fucking love Israel, bro. Like, oh my God. Like, here's the
I would
thing.
never understand the evangelical caping for Israel. I mean, you explained it.
Oh God, dude, it's so bad. But anyways, my point about Trump is like, yeah, Trump is a fascist, and the best things he's ever done were via executive orders. Yeah, and the Green New Deal, first day, boop, done. No fucking vote, no fucking debate. Just it's done. We're done with that shit. All these sanctions on all this like this North Korea shit. Fucking no debate. We're not gonna send Lindsey Graham there. Trump's just gonna be like, you're a little pussy. Okay, fuck you. Stop making nuclear weapons. Like that works. Okay, and they're terrified of that. And Trump is amoral. He's an amoral, greasy Jersey businessman. But he takes charge sometimes. He does those dictator moves that actually do work. And this is the problem with right wing. And the left is okay with this because the left is more collectivist, like inherently. And that's the problem is the right wing is terrified to collectivize because they love capitalism. Oh, yeah, we need free market. We don't have to take care of anybody. We don't have to have a nation. We don't have to have anything. We just need to fucking pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Ha, you took the student loans? Fuck you. Like, what kind of fucking message is that? It's disgusting. Like, these people are beyond saving. So, I mean, I don't know. I wanted, in November 2022, I was a true fucking believer. I was like, oh my God, he's not just going to run. He's going to win. Can you imagine if there's a Ye rally and, look, Ty Dolla $ign and Lil Durk and Nick Fuentes are all going to, talk about how Kanye is going to be president. Everyone and their sister would be there. Yeah. Everyone would have turned out, but I think they might have got him. I don't know.
Well, last question. What is the timeline of the American experiment left? What do we got left? We got a couple
6
years.
months.
Oh
6
shit.
months. I don't
Oh,
think there's going to be an election. Straight
wow.
up. They're either going to put Trump in prison. Here's scenario B. Okay, number one, scenario A is they put Trump in prison, they just install the next puppet, and then it's complete and utter tyranny. They release another virus, and it's fucking game over. Option B. This is the worst one.
Oh,
Trump wins. Trump
oh.
wins against all the odds. Trump wins. And then he fixes everything. He does. He ends the war in
That's
Gaza. He
Antichrist
ends the war in
territory.
Ukraine. What's that?
That's Antichrist territory. He's gonna become
Yes, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. Is
he
he will cause a ceasefire, which is not what we want. We want an end to the occupation. He'll create a ceasefire. He'll end the war in Ukraine, and then the shit's gonna pop off in China. And you know how Trump feels about China. Okay, frankly, China's very bad. Okay, in case you didn't know, China very bad. Okay, and they're gonna fucking go to nuclear war. Because this guy is, I mean, he's whoever he's surrounded by. He's gonna, and that's the thing. People are like, "Oh, never Nikki. We hate Nikki Haley." Trump is gonna fucking import 95 Nikki Haley's into his next administration. 90 Israel firsters will be right there because they're our fucking greatest ally, and you're not a real American patriot if you don't love Israel. So I think there's really two scenarios, and then three is just total collapse, total collapse. And the people like Owen Benjamin who are living in the fucking woods are gonna be fine. They're gonna love this.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why I'm trying to prepare because there are no solutions in my opinion.
Well, Goose, it's been a pleasure having you on.
Always, dude.
Man.
Always.
I'll end with this. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world. It is dark.
God bless.
Keep your light shining, man. Amen. Appreciate you. Big love.
I don't want a black pill either. You know, live your life. Be good. Be moral. Like that's. Yeah. I'm not saying this like, you know, there's no hope, you know, you just have to be a good person. Yeah. Like even with all this, because it's always been this way, like the biblical stuff, they talk about it. It's not against flesh and blood. It's against your own demons. Yeah. So yeah, be good.
Well, that's all we got for today. Big love to everybody who watched. Appreciate you. Follow us on the Twitter /X platforms and we'll do some spaces soon. Gang.
Peace.